Dear Micheal Gunter, Professor of Political Science at Tennessee Technology University and Secretary General of the EU Turkey Civic Commission, thank you for joining us today.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you. In previous negotiations for a peace process between the Kurdish movement and the Turkish state, Abdullah Öcalan, the imprisoned leader of the Kurdish freedom movement, has always played the central role. So, how would you describe the Turkish state's attitude towards Öcalan now, and what are the prospects for a peace process?
I must tell you that I was probably one of the last Western scholars to visit Öcalan. I visited him for several days in March 1998 at his place in Damascus, Syria. And then another day we went out to a PKK camp not far out from Damascus where I visited with him. And I found him to be a, a lot more reasonable than what I had read in Turkish literature about the situation. Uh, Öcalan even agreed with me that if Ataturk were alive today, he would make a lot of changes in Turkey's policies toward the Kurds and move towards some type of overall settlement because Turkey is a great and powerful country and it does not have to be afraid about dealing with the Kurdish problem. However, as you know, there was a brief time where we had a ceasefire from 2013 to 2015, where the Turkish government was actually, in effect, negotiating with Öcalan from his Turkish prison in Imrali Island. And there was a lot of hope that Öcalan was even going to be gradually released into house detainment and that we were moving on towards a real peace process here. And the Hakan Fidan, the head of Turkish intelligence, was having regular talks with Öcalan. But as you know, the elections, Turkish parliamentary elections, June 7th, 2015, Erdogan's party lost its majority in parliament. And Erdogan began to calculate that his political future, as he saw it, rested with his taking an ultra Turkish nationalist position on the Kurdish issue. And the fighting began again in July 2015. And I'm not saying it's all the fault of Turkey. I think the PKK could have understood Turkish sensitivities better about having PKK police forces in southeastern Turkey. But basically, it was in Erdogan's park, and he chose to break off the peace negotiations for his own political future. And this meant that Erdogan and Turkey stopped talking to Öcalan. As I understand it, almost nobody outside of his prisoners have even talked with Öcalan in the last 4 or 5 years. So it's a very regretful situation that could have been a lot better if Turkey had continued talking with Öcalan, but it has chosen not to.
In recent years, Turkey's aggression has been increasing in the region. For example, in Syria, in Libya, in the Eastern Mediterranean as well, and the most recently Nagorno-Karabakh. How do you understand these actions of Turkey?
Uh, this is a difficult situation for Turkey because, uh, as you know, Turkey for almost half a millennium was the European other. The Ottoman Empire stretched into southeastern Turkey, reached the gates of Vienna two times in 1528, I think, in 1683. And as late as the late part of the 19th century, Ottoman Empire was battling away in southeastern Europe against European Christian forces. So there's a long history here on the part of Europe and Turkey seeing each other as the other, as the enemy. Now, in more recent times, Turkey, as you know, has become a member of NATO since 1952 and was even a applicant for membership in the EU. However, these things have not materialized, and Turkey under Erdogan, again, I think largely for domestic political reasons, feels that it has to take a strong stance in a number of countries surrounding Turkey, including Syria, Iraq, where Kurds are prevalent, Greece, Libya, Cyprus, and at this point, it's almost too much. Turkey, by taking a position on Nagorno Karabakh in favor of the Azerbaijan, is opposing Russia, which is supporting Armenia. So Turkey is not only taking on NATO and the United States, but taking on Russia. And where is it going to end? Turkey is courting its own problems here, in my opinion.
The tensions between Europe and Turkey have also been increasing recently, involving Turkey's increased aggression and the refugee crisis. How is it the relationship between Turkey and Europe at the present time?
Well, here's where I understand Turkey's problems. Turkey has serious economic problems even before all this started, and is not a fully modern country yet. And then suddenly, because of the Syrian civil war, Turkey is inundated with approximately 3.8 million refugees and has had its resources seriously taxed by supporting these refugees. And frankly, I compliment Turkey for a lot of what it has done to soothe or attempt to soothe the problems of these refugees. And Europe certainly doesn't want these refugees. We had a huge crisis, I think, in 2015 and 2016. And Europe, the EU, wants nothing to do with these refugees. It's largely on Turkey's back. And yes, Turkey has used the refugee problem to try and leverage Europe into agreeing with Turkey on some of its positions. But this is a problem that even the Europeans, much more wealthy than Turkey, were overwhelmed by the refugee problem. And look at Turkey. So here is something that I think Turkey and the EU and the United Nations and other involved powers ought to spend a lot more time trying to solve. And of course, the background of the refugee problem is the Syrian civil war, which continues to simmer behind the scenes. And if we don't get an overall solution to the Syrian situation, the refugee problem will continue to fester and grow.
In your view, in what direction is Turkey heading now, and what are the prospects for democratization in Turkey?
I think Turkey's on the wrong track. Maybe 10 years ago now, when he was foreign minister and Prime Minister, Professor Ahmet Davutoglu said that Turkey's policy was going to be no problems with neighbors, no problems with neighbors. And I think he sincerely meant that. And even your home country, Cyprus, that was a good place where I think Turkey could have implemented that policy, no problems with foreigners. But instead, in recent years, again, for largely domestic political reasons, Erdogan has chosen to enter one foreign adventure after another. Now, I can understand how he got pulled into Syria, but then, because Syria is right on the southern border, and the PKK, in effect, was right across the border from Turkey here. But Erdogan did not have to treat the Syrian Kurds as an enemy. He could have treated them as people who needed help, and then he might have had a lot better response from the Syrian Kurds, instead of having to feel like he had to invade in Afrin and in the northeastern part of the country, and then to go on and challenge Greece and Cyprus for resources in the Eastern Mediterranean, which has brought in the animosity of France in particular. Now, I can understand the problems Turkey has in the Eastern Mediterranean, because we don't have time to get into it, but the international legal situation of the law of the sea is not fair to Turkey because the entire Aegean is basically closed off to Turkey because of the Greek islands. And this needs a special exception in international law, but this should be negotiated between Turkey and Greece and not something that Turkey just threatens Greece with.
How do you understand the role of the EU Turkey Civic Commission in the present in conjecture?
Well, that's what actually involves me on a personal level. Uh, the EU Turkey Civic Commission is a small but expert NGO that lobbies Europe and specifically the European Union Parliament for monitoring and furthering the democratization process within Turkey. And we do this largely, as you know, by having an annual convention on the Kurdish problem in Turkey and where it stands right now. That convention or conference, really, better word, was usually held in December, had to be postponed this year because of the pandemic. And in this conference, we tried to show Turkey's strong points, but usually Turkey's weak points on its democratization process towards solving the Kurdish problem. And the publicity that we get by being in the EU Parliament is enormous. And we certainly thank the EU officials for allowing this conference to go on in the EU Parliament. And I think it's not just on behalf of the Kurds, it's for the good of Turkey. In the long run, Turkey is going to be a failure if it does not democratically solve its Kurdish problem. And we wish Turkey goodwill. We wish Turkey goodwill, and we encourage it to live up to the better angels of its destiny to solve this problem. And solving the problem will not hurt Turkey, it will help Turkey. And of course, we do a lot of other things. From time to time, we pick up on specific problems, such as recently, Istanbul University offered an honorary doctorate to the president of the EU Human Rights Court. And we criticized this receipt of the honorary doctorate on the part of the EU court because it seemed to be favoring Turkey's human rights violations. And by entering this debate, the EUTCC keeps Turkey's attention and the EU's attention to the continuing Kurdish problem.
Dear Micheal Gunter, Professor of Political Science at Tennessee Technology University and Secretary General of the EUTCC, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for your comments.
Erem, thank you for setting this all up.
Thank you. Thank you.